House prices continue to stay low. Good news for buyers, not so good for sellers. The latest Real Estate Institute figures show the median house price is now just over $770,000, down 2.4% year on year to the end of February.
New Zealand's housing market isn't just correcting, it's face planting, and it's not getting up. Despite some of the most aggressive rate cuts in the world, Kiwi house prices are still flawed. Something's happening in New Zealand that seems inconceivable in Australia. Housing affordability is actually improving. But the big question is, could this also happen in Australia? I'm Biko Konstantinos, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What do you call a Greek going down the escalator? Condescending. Yes, that was absolute crap, but hopefully my content is slightly better. So why don't you stick around, like this video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I liked Star Wars before Disney destroyed it. But everyone's saying that Andor is pretty good, but I don't have Disney, so I can't bloody watch it. Now, how the hell have New Zealand house prices fallen so much and stayed there, while Australia can't even seem to go 1 month without house prices continually rising? Today's video will contain a lot of information from macro business, especially this article titled New Zealand's Wonderful House Price Crash by Leith Van Onselen. Now, Leith is bloody great, so make sure you check him out. Now, remember when that pandemic thing hit and governments around the world slashed rates to zero, pumped millions and billions of dollars into the economies, thus fueling one of the biggest house booms ever? Now, New Zealand house prices were already expensive before that, but after the COVID boom, they became some of the most expensive in the world. This table here shows the Demographia Housing Affordability Report for 2022, and as you can see here, New Zealand had a median multiple of 11.2. So that means the median house price was 11 times the median income. Now back then, houses in Australia were 8 times the median income. So New Zealand quickly became ultra bloody expensive. So you can see how New Zealand house prices rose sharply prior to the pandemic, but then they really soared. But unlike Australia, they fell sharply and then they've stayed down. And you can see real continued weakness in the Wellington region. But if we look here at house prices adjusted for inflation, the crash is so much worse. Now the rises on this chart are showing that house prices were rising faster than inflation during those periods. But since reaching the peak in around 2022, you can see how house prices have fallen way below the inflation level. So adjusted for inflation, house prices are now at the exact same level that they were prior to COVID. And that's really quite phenomenal. So because New Zealand house prices have crashed and stayed down for a lengthy period, their housing affordability has now improved significantly. Demographia's 2025 Housing Affordability Report shows that New Zealand house prices are now 7.7 times the median income. Now that's an extremely significant drop from 2021 when it was 11.2 times. So New Zealand had that sharp fall which immediately increased affordability, but even since then when house prices remained flat, affordability has continued to improve because wages have been rising while house prices have remained flat. Now, one thing about New Zealand, they went bloody hard on interest rates after the pandemic. Rates were consistently hiked all the way up to 5.5% cash rate. This meant that mortgage rates in New Zealand were over 7%, which is huge when you have expensive houses. They remained at that level since the latter part of last year, but since then, they've been cutting rates very consistently, with the latest cut in April taking the cash rate to 3.5%. So if we look at the New Zealand median house price, rates were first cut here in August 2024, and since then house prices have gone up and down, but basically remained flat. So we've had 7 months of rates falling a whopping 2%, and house prices still have remained completely flat. So not only has housing affordability improved for home buyers, they can now borrow more, and if they buy a house, their mortgage repayments will be significantly lower. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to buy a house in New Zealand, because it isn't. Wages are low, they've gone through a massive recession, and they've got high unemployment. But the good thing is that housing affordability is improving. And this is in very sharp contrast to Australia, where housing affordability seems to get worse and worse. A recent Property Track Housing Affordability report showed that a median income household earning $112,000 could only afford 14% of all homes sold, which is the lowest share since they started recording. Now, just 3 years ago, that same median income household could have afforded 43% of homes sold. This is an absolute kick in the guts for those households who aren't earning a large income, and it's made it virtually impossible for them to be able to own a home. One of the major reasons for this, in my opinion, is that Australia has absolutely no appetite to see house prices fall. Prior to the latest election, both major parties stated their desire for house prices to keep rising.
But Minister, if house prices don't come down, doesn't that mean that this system is stacked against young people, that it's just not going to work for them?
Sure, and Dave, we may have a difference of view about this. I have a strong view. Our government's policies are not going to reduce house prices. We want house prices to grow sustainably.
Would you like house prices to go up or go down?
I want to see them steadily increase. I don't want to see a situation where Labor crashes the economy and somebody who's paid $750,000 for a house today is worth $600,000 in 18 months' time under an Albanese government. That would be a disaster.
Now, just consider that. Australia has had one of the biggest housing bubbles in the entire world, and now we have some of the most expensive houses on the planet. The latest demography report shows that Sydney's the second most expensive city in the world, just behind Hong Kong. And based on the current trend, it'll soon be more expensive than even Hong Kong. And yet we still don't want house prices to fall. This is opposite to New Zealand, who acknowledged that house prices were too expensive and actually wanted them to become more affordable.
Housing's too expensive in New Zealand.
And therefore the price needs to reduce.
We want housing to be more affordable for New Zealanders. That is a major work stream of this government. Average house prices in New Zealand are too expensive. Average house prices to average household income are too high. By any objective measure, they are severely unaffordable by international standards. We now have one of the most expensive housing markets in the developed world. So the flip side of house prices falling for people who own homes is that they become more affordable for people who don't own homes. And there is a whole generation of young New Zealanders who have been locked out of the housing market because average house prices are too high.
If houses are ever going to become more affordable in Australia, policymakers have to bloody want it. I'm Biko Konstantinos.